In this video, we'll discuss segments and segment measures. Now, just as a reminder, if we have the double bars over two letters, we know that means the line. If it's flat, we know that means the segment. And if there's nothing, we're talking about measurement, the distance or the length or the measure from those 2 points. When we talk about these objects, we have to make sure we're using the right way of writing them. When we talk specifically about using objects like segment AB, segment CD, we would be using the congruent symbol. When we talk about using measurements, the measure of AB, the length of CD, we're going to use equality. And it's important that we pay attention to which one we're using so we use the right symbols. Whenever we have two segments that are the same length, we will use tick marks to represent that congruence. So say we have here that segment AB is congruent to segment CD. We know this because of the tick marks on those lines. And what we can write is either that the two segments are congruent or their measures are equal. Either is okay to say, we just have to be accurate in our equality symbol and in the symbols we use for each of those segments. Now, when we want to measure a segment with a ruler, we want to make sure to align the ruler with the segment. Most often, we start at 0 on the ruler and then measure to the other endpoint. You can do variations of this, but this is the most common thing that is done. And when we talk about that measurement, again, we're just going to label the two endpoints and nothing over them. That's important. That tells us we're talking about the length, distance, and measurement. So if we see here, this says determine the measure of AB. So we have our segment, we take our ruler, we align it, and we say, well, we start at 0, we're going to 4.5. So we would say that based on this ruler, the length of AB is 4.5 inches. Now from segments, we can talk about the segment addition postulate. This occurs when we have a point on our segment. And what we can say is that the two smaller segments, when their lengths are added together, should be the same length as the entire segment. So here AC plus CB equals the entire length AB. And you think about small segment measure plus small segment measure equals the total. So say we have that the length of AB is 12, the length of CB is 7, and we want to determine, well, what's the length of AC? And this is not drawn to scale, just so you understand. So I could just make an image myself with the segment, I put a point on it, and then I label the pieces I have. I know that the entire length is 12 units. I know that from C to B, that length is 7 units, and what I want to know is what's the length from A to C. And I can think then about my segment addition postulate and substitute in the pieces I have. AC is unknown, so I can just leave it as segment length AC plus 7 equals 12. And if I subtract 7 from both sides, I'd see that the length of segment AC is 5 units, and 5 plus 7 does equal 12. We can also bisect segments, and this will intersect the segment at the midpoint. It could be done by a point, a line, a ray. It can be done by a plane. It could be done by any object as long as it bisects that segment at the midpoint. And when we know this, if C was that midpoint on segment AB, we would say that the length from A to C is equal to the length from C to B. So say that we have ray LP bisecting segment RN at point P. And then if we know PN is equal to 11 centimeters, what's RN? First thing, let's start with, well, what is this image? So LP is a ray, and it's going to bisect RN. So here's my ray LP, and at point P, we're bisecting segment RN. What does that mean? It means RP and PN have to be congruent segments. So that's an important place to start. Also, we're talking about the length of RN, and using segment addition postulate, we know that RP plus PN has to equal that entire length. So what we know from our problem here is that PN, this segment's length, is 11 centimeters. And since RP is congruent to it, we know that RP must also be 11 centimeters. So we can say that 11 plus 11 will equal that length of RN, which is 22. And so RN has a length of 22 centimeters.